Hi boys and girls, today I'm going to read one of my all-time favorites and it's called Carlos and the Squash Plant. This book is kind of cool because it has the words in English and it's got the words in Spanish. I'm not so good with my Spanish, but let me try to read this. Carlos y la planta de calabaza. So I think that means Carlos and the squash plant. And in this book, there are some words that I kind of have a hard time with because they are in Spanish. But I'm going to try my very best. I chose this book because it really entertains me. It's a fun story. And in this book, I want you to use your imagination. Carlos and the squash plant. And look right at the top, I have words in English. Right at the top, and at the bottom, I have words in Spanish. I'm going to be reading the top part. Carlos lived in the fertile Espinosa Valley, nestled in the mountains of northern New Mexico. His mother and father were farmers and tended a large garden plot next to their thick wall adobe home. They grew large green watermelons, sweet corn, juicy red tomatoes, small green chilies, so hot they burned the roof of Carlos's mouth. But his favorite vegetable was squash because his mother used it for making calabacitas, a spicy dish that combines the flavors of corn, squash, cheese, and green chilies. So this is what Carlos's house and garden look like. Carlos spent most of his days helping in the garden right alongside his brother and father. Together they planted seeds, weeded between the long even rows, and gathered vegetables when they were ripe. Carlos worked so hard that the rich brown earth ended up everywhere, under his fingernails, between his toes, and inside his ears. But he hated taking baths, and he especially hated washing his ears. His mother would warn him, "Si no le tempias le ojos, te va a abortar un calabacita." If you don't wash your ears, a squash plant will grow in them. So that's what Mama would say. But of course, Carlos didn't believe her. One day, he had been in the garden all day and was especially dirty. When he came in the house, his mother told him he had to have a bath before dinner. "Oh, Mama, do I have to?" asked Carlos. But his mother just pointed toward the bathroom door. Carlos went into the bathroom and shut the door, but instead of taking a bath, he just wiped off his face with a washcloth. Then he put on his pajamas, went to the kitchen, and sat down at the dinner table with his brother and his mother and his father. "Did you take your bath?" his mother asked, looking at Carlos with a raised eyebrow. "Si, Mama, I did," he said. Papa only shook his head. After dinner, Carlos went to bed. When the bright summer sun shone in his bedroom window in the morning, he woke up quickly. He had an itchy sort of feeling in his ear, and when he started to scratch it, he felt something strange. Carlos ran to the mirror. A tiny light green stem with two pear-shaped leaves was growing in his right ear. Just as he was wondering what to do, his mother called him for breakfast. He could smell the aroma of churros, which is spicy hot sausage, and eggs frying. Look at that. Just imagine if you woke up with a squash plant coming out of your ear. "Just a minute, Mama," said Carlos, and he ran to his closet and found a wide-brimmed hat. He pulled it down over both ears and walked into the kitchen. "Good morning, son," said his mother. "Sit down and have your breakfast." "But why are you wearing that hat? It's such a sunny day today, and I don't want the sun to get in my eyes," answered Carlos. And he ate his breakfast so fast he went outside before his mother could get a second look. Carlos worked outside all morning, and he ate his lunch sitting on a branch of a huge cottonwood tree while a thin stream of water ran beneath him. There he is, eating his lunch in the tree. At nightfall, he came inside, and when his mother saw him, she told him to take a bath before dinner. "Oh, Mama, do I have to?" he asked, but Ma just pointed toward the bathroom. Carlos went into the bathroom, but again, instead of taking a bath, he only wiped his face off with a wet washcloth. Then he sat down at the table. Carlos, did you take a bath? Asked his mother as she served dinner. Si, Mama, I did, said Carlos, and he quickly ate his dinner, then went upstairs to bed. He was tired, so tired he fell asleep immediately. The next morning, when the sun felt warm on his face, his right ear was itching more than ever. He jumped out of bed and looked in the mirror. The green plant that had only been merely a tiny shoot the day before had grown to about 4 inches in length. 3 more leaves had joined the first 2. Whoa. Ah, caramba, thought Carlos, but just then he heard his mother calling him and he smelled the aroma of fresh, warm cornmeal cakes cooking on the stove. Carlos ran across the hall to his brother's room and found a big hat on the highest closet shelf. He pulled it down over both ears and walked into the kitchen. Good morning, son. Sit down for breakfast, his mother said. But why are you wearing that big hat? Oh, the sun is so hot, I don't want to get it in my eyes, Carlos said, and he ate only a few bites of his breakfast and hurried outside. That evening, Carlos came in from the garden dirtier than ever, and once again his mother told him to take a bath before dinner, but Carlos only wiped his face and returned to the kitchen, the big hat still on his head. Carlos, did you take a bath? Asked his mother. Si, Mama, answered Carlos, pulling the large hat further down over his ears. After dinner, he went straight to bed. Carlos woke up the next morning and his head felt heavy on one side. He didn't need to look in the mirror to know what had happened. A long green vine with yellow blossoms hung down the side of his pillow and trailed onto the floor. Carlos tried pulling it out. He tried breaking it off. He tried stomping on it with his foot, but nothing would rid him of the squash plant, which was now several feet long. Ay, caramba, he thought to himself, and just then he heard his mother calling him for breakfast. He ran into his parents' bedroom where he found even a larger hat from his father's closet. Oh my goodness, imagine that. Look at that. I'd say he has a problem. Coiling the squash vine on top of his head, he pulled the hat down over both ears and then walked into the kitchen. Good morning, son. Have some warm tortillas and honey, said his mother. But why are you wearing Papa's hat? It's very sunny and bright outside. I want to keep the sun out of my eyes, Carlos said. But the sun isn't shining today. It is windy and cloudy, said his mother. Carlos didn't answer, but rolled up a tortilla and took it outside with him to eat. Sure enough, the weather was breezy and cool. Tumbleweeds blew down the road, and Carlos had to hold on to the hat with one hand while he weeded the garden with the other. Just as it was getting dark, Carlos let go of the hat for just a moment, and a gust of wind carried it down the road. At the same time, Carlos heard his mother calling him inside. Carlos covered his head with his arms, and before Mama could even ask him to take a bath, he had filled the tub with water. Desperately, he began scrubbing his left ear. At the same time, he felt a tingly, itchy sensation in the other ear, and amazingly, the squash plant began to shrink. The more he scrubbed, the smaller it became, until finally the vine had completely disappeared. Carlos dried himself off, put on his pajamas, and walked to the kitchen where he sat down for dinner. Mama, I have finished my bath and I even remembered to wash my ears, said Carlos. You are such a good boy. And for you, I have cooked your favorite dish, calabicitas, his mother said. And as she put the steaming plate down in front of him, she winked at Papa, who pretended not to notice. Oh my gosh, did you like that story? Let's think, is that fiction or nonfiction? Do you think a squash plant could really grow out of your ear? No, it really can't. This story is fiction. It is a pretend story, but I always love this story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.